All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to talk to you about Julius Caesar and why he was... Okay, now that I've officially bored everyone to sleep, let's talk about something I'm actually really passionate about. There's been a lot that I have experienced in the public school system, especially around race, right? I've definitely grown up, as being Native Hawaiian, I've grown up with my fair share of, do you wear coconut bras? Ha ha ha. Or did you need a passport? Wow. I know that some of these questions are not necessarily intended to be offensive and that some people do not know. But there are many times where I am looked at my culture and told that my culture is not important enough to be respected. So today I'm going to be talking to you about why we should learn about minority cultures and the importance of why it is here in our American school system and why it should be taught more. First, we'll be going over what is my Hawaiian culture and why is it important, specifically Hawaiian culture, because that's what I'm knowledgeable about. Next, we'll be going over why it is important to know and why, it can affect our society in a certain way, and why specifically should we learn about minority cultures in school and how it could improve our school system. So first, my Hawaiian culture. Everyone knows about Hawaiian cultures as pineapples or grass skirts, coconut bras, hula dancing, or fat guys singing, which to an extent, I guess it is, not gonna lie. It's whatever, they're fat and happy, I understand that. But there's a lot of people that don't understand what ancient Hawaiian culture is and why it is still ingrained in my society in Hawaii today. Now, the assistant professor at BYU Hawaii, Kamoe Wak, and my father, who minored in Hawaiian studies, is where I'm getting all of this information. Because, let's be honest, professor and a minor in Hawaiian studies. Now, a lot of you don't realize how important respect is in Hawaii. Hawaii is the place where everyone is respected regardless of how they are oriented sexually, how they look, or how they feel, or any of those things. In ancient Hawaiian culture, they had something called a Mahu, which it's not really a something, it is a person. There was a male, female, and Mahu. Mahu would be determined as someone who is not necessarily effeminate, but not necessarily masculine, or it could be a masculine woman or a effeminate man. And each person, an individual, regardless of their gender, had a role in society. Not only that, but women were respected. Now men, hear me out, when women were on their periods, they were looked at as goddesses and beautiful people, givers of life. Those people were able to birth babies and they were sent away to take care of themselves while they were on their periods. They were not told that they were dirty or wrong for having something happen to them in their life that they could not control. And as far as sexual partners, they didn't have such a thing as marriage. Now, if you wanted to be monogamous with someone, or you just wanted one partner, you were allowed to do that. If you wanted many partners, you were allowed to do that. If you wanted to sleep with a man or a woman, regardless of your gender, you were allowed to do that. And as far as how people were raised and how children were coming to be adults, they had 3 different levels. And to break it down, there was the child level, the keiki, and then there's the parent level, and then I guess the grandparent level. Everyone in a culture, in the place that they were living, the village, was raised the entire generation. And you respected the people who knew more than you, which is why this is important. Going into why this is important to know, the fact is that I can definitely see, and I'm sure you guys also can see around us, is that people do not necessarily respect one another, whether it be their political views, how they feel sexually oriented, or whatever you may believe. And I understand that not everybody necessarily believes that those things are true. But that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to convince you what is right or what is true. I am trying to convince you that it is important to respect another person based on what they believe or feel. It is not supposed to be I am right, you are wrong. It is, I feel I am right, but I still respect your decisions. Now, according to the BizEd website, which they partner with the Association to Advance Collegation in School of Business, people think they understand a foreign culture when all they know are the basic do's and don'ts, such as how to bow or when to hand over a business card. It is important to know that it's not necessarily just having the basic understanding of what a culture is, how you say hello or goodbye or any of those things. It is important to know these things because it is wide in our culture. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the United States Census has 20.8% of minorities. That means every 1 in 5 individuals is a minority, in at least with ethnicity and race. 1 in 5 people here are a minority in this school. Maybe not specifically in Iowa, but at least in the United States. It is important to know and understand and respect these cultures because every 1 in 5 people is that culture. It is important to know these things and to respect our individuals because they are our future, they are our fellow people. And if you, as an individual, were told every day that because of something you cannot control is wrong, you would feel uncomfortable and you would hate yourself. Which leads me to our next point. How can it be better in schooling? I don't know if you knew this, but in most cases, there are more people who are white that test better than Black people or Latinos or Latinas. Everybody doesn't realize that people who are white have more ability to rise up. They have more opportunities. And yes, there are scholarships for people who are minorities and there are other opportunities. But regardless of that, there are still places where there's poverty, where places are more impoverished. And there is a lot more that needs to be done about that. In order to stop this, and if we understand the cultures and we understand why they are different, instead of bullying or telling people that they are wrong for doing or believing or saying the things that they do believe, we could possibly increase test scores among those who are minorities. We could possibly create higher graduation rates for those who are minorities. It is definitely possible. And might I add, according to American Health Ranking, suicide among teens is number 2 in the for causes of death in teens, with 18.8% of teens actually considering to kill themselves and 8.9% actually doing it. That is almost 1 in 10 people actually choosing to commit suicide and attempting it. This is something that is very important and that every individual and every student should know because this is something that is an epidemic. This is something that students cannot control. And when we are choosing to not educate ourselves about these things, which some people might say, that is not my job, all right? We have other things better to do in the American school system than learn about other cultures and learn about the importance of why everybody should be able to say or do or think how they feel. It is more important. Is that more important of learning those other things than allowing our teens to die or want to die? I don't think so. Now, thank you for listening to me and talking to hear about what I think and how I feel about why minorities should have their say and why culture should be taught in schools. Thank you.